Get a grip on lighting, folks. We got Benjamin Rapkin. He is the co-founder of LIGHTGLASS and Lightly, a student of biophilic design and a researcher of light's impact on human biology and psychology. He works to further understand how we can apply light to improve people's quality of life and to reduce the carbon footprint of the industry. As a lifelong musician, Benjamin greatly appreciates the converging creativity and design of architectural products and spaces, and is passionate about improving the human relationship with the built environment. Check it out at lightly.com and lightglasslighting.com. He's on LinkedIn. And but you know what, Greg? I think we got to keep it easy here on Get a Grip on Lighting before we get to Benjamin. It's going to stay easy. We're going to keep it easy with Light Made Easy at Keystone Technologies. KEYSTONETECH.com.
Light Made Easy and innovative. Something that I have not seen before that's brand new that nobody else is doing is an optic swap. That's what Keystone's calling it for their area lights. So what that means is with one area light, you can get a type 3, type 4, type 5 optics all in there. And you can easily interchange it in the field by unfastening and refastening the clasp. No tools required. You just slide in the right optic you want. You slide out the one you don't want, and you're there. So now you got a parking lot, one fixture, you can do it all. 3, 4, 5, color change, power select, photo cell, everything easy to get your area lighting done with Keystone.
You know, Greg really likes this product because he moved into his camera like this and he was all in there talking about the product. That's right. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com. That's KeystoneTech.com. Keep it easy. Light Made Easy. Of course, proud members of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's NAILD.org. That's right. Listen, we're America's Lighting Association, and we're having America's convention. It's being held in Dallas, and we're going to check out America's team. That's what I heard, Greg. We're going to go down and check out where the Dallas Cowboys play while we're doing America's Lighting Convention at the National Association of Innovative Dallas, Texas, sometime in September. Check it out at NAILD.org. Benjamin Rapkin, welcome to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Greg, do you know what biophilic design is before we ask Benjamin?
Biophilic design, something with bio. No, I don't. Give it to us, Benjamin. What do we got?
Yeah, so I guess there's several ways to interpret it and apply it in architecture, but the way we think about it at our company is biophilia literally means our love of life when you translate it from Latin. And we're talking about incorporating natural experiences into the built environment to provide as many of the benefits as nature provides us, but in our indoor spaces. And so we're trying to incorporate these natural benefits into the built environment. And there's many ways to do it, but one of the most prominent examples would be a view out of a window, a visual connection with nature.
Mm-hmm.
It can lower your blood pressure, your heart rate, improve your mood. Some may have heard that it can help patients in hospitals heal faster. There's all types of benefits, but overall, that's the general idea of it.
Is it the view or is it the effect of the view? Because when what you're talking about is just a light on the wall, but I'm looking out my window, I see a car, I see trees, I see some things like that. So what do you mean by
Yeah,
that?
so there's separate benefits for the light that comes into space and the actual view out of the window. And one without the other can have some benefits, but what a real window provides is the ultimate benefit, which is you have sunlight coming in and affecting your circadian rhythm, affecting your ability to see in the environment. And then you have this visual connection with natural systems like trees, water, plants, clouds, and the sky that provides a whole different set of benefits, both psychological and physiological. And so they're both important, but even separately, the light and the view can provide benefits.
Nice. And is LIGHTGLASS something that you could come up with, or you work for the company, or what's the relation there?
Yeah, so LightGlass is the brainchild of our CEO, Sean Darris, and he's an engineer, a visionary product designer, and really an amazing person to work with because he can think about product innovation many years ahead of our industry and bring that future forward. My involvement is more on the marketing and sales side. I was brought in as the first full-time employee to work on LightGlass LIGHTGLASS and to bring it to market. So when I joined, there were no customers, no revenue, just prototypes of the product, and it was my job to build the market for LIGHTGLASS.
What year was it that you started?
We launched LIGHTGLASS in 2018 and had been working on the product prototype for about a year before that. So it's been like around 4.5 years since we launched.
Wow. And give us a rundown of the product. I know you have your website, but to explain
Sure.
it to everyone, what is it exactly?
Yeah, so the mission of LIGHTGLASS is to improve people's quality of life by bringing the experience of daylight into windowless spaces. And so what LIGHTGLASS is a simulated window or skylight system that can be applied in the wall or the ceiling to make it seem like there is a window with daylight coming through it in windowless spaces like basements or MRI suites or behavioral health units. And we're trying to provide some of the benefits that daylight can provide with an electric lighting system.
I like that you said some.
Some of the benefits?
Yeah, what you're doing is you're kind of making a virtual reality. And that, but it's not on your head. It's part of the architecture, right?
Exactly.
And or
Yeah,
augmented reality or something like that. I don't know what the right word is, but it's like instead of wearing a headset that shows you a different world, the architecture is showing you the possibilities of a different world, and even that without the sunlight is enough to create some sense of well-being or connection to the outside world or something like that. And I think it's an interesting product from that perspective. In that, yes, we know that skylight windows are better than skylights, and we know that skylights are better than sun tunnels, but we know that sun tunnels are better than nothing, right? And what you're saying is that we can do the same thing with electric light, and that it's not going to be a window, but there will be some impacts on the people in the room, which are net positive.
Yeah, you know what inspired us to start this company and go through all of this product investment and innovation is the research from the Lighting Research Center that was published many years ago that told us that light is capable of much more than just functionally illuminating the work plane and the floor. That if we use light in a way to light people in a way, to get the right amount and right quality of light into people's eyes, that we could not just affect their sleep quality, but many health outcomes, long-term health outcomes. And it became especially interesting to us when we saw the research on how shift workers were being affected by their screwing with their circadian rhythm and how that was really causing some serious health issues over a career of disrupted circadian rhythm, disrupted sleep. And we thought, well, all the light fixtures we're seeing being developed, this was like 5 years ago, we're doing a great job creating different shapes, a great job with all the different light distributions and making sure we properly, beautifully light architecture. But there were very few solutions that were optimizing lighting and making it easy to light people the right way and to make sure we were providing light that provided the ultimate health benefits to individuals. And so, there have been seasonal affective disorder lamps on desktops for many years, but not an architectural version of that. And something that's really interesting is that the architectural design community, they are the experts in creating the built environment and cannot expect the inhabitants of the spaces, the people actually renting or buying those spaces, to have the same depth of understanding of how the geometry of a space matters and how the lighting design matters. And so we need to take the responsibility as the product designers and as the architectural designers to design spaces that will benefit people. And so what we're doing is making it easy to incorporate the benefits of circadian lighting and some of the benefits of daylight into spaces that can't have the real thing. And
So
the
I
reason
wrote
I
down.
say it like that,
Yeah.
sorry,
Finish up. No, go ahead. Say it
the
like
reason I
that.
say it like that is because I think Windows, there is no equal. And I think that
Yes.
LIGHTGLASS and simulated daylight is the next best thing.
And thank you
to
for
a real
that,
thing.
by the way. And the other thing is that it's very important to me that we start speaking correctly as an industry about these kinds of things. And I like the way you're talking about it. And I found that other people that talk about it are dipping into the snake oil barrel a little bit. Um, and I think the industry has a long history of that kind of talk, marketing. Seasonal affective disorder is going to be cured by this 5,000 full spectrum, blah, blah, blah nonsense. So I think that, that I like the way that you're speaking about it. I wrote down sleep and I underlined it. And because I've interviewed a lot of people that discuss this, and I think all of the benefits that people talk about when they talk about, human centric lighting, perhaps is a good word, or integrated lighting, or circadian lighting, or whatever the word is they're talking about. I think most or all of the benefits come from improved sleep, not as a result of improved sleep. But my question is this. That's what I think. You can comment on it in a second. But my question is this. Does good interior design just make people feel better? Like, step back from it for a second and say, and then lighting is at the heart of that. And so what we're doing is just making better interior design using what we have to work with, which is a windowless space. Is that what you're really doing?
I guess you could say that good interior design does make people feel better. What I would argue is that light is probably the most powerful element that we can control in the built environment to change someone's experience or perception of a space. Our visual perception is usually the first way we experience the space and thus takes up most of our initial impression. And so, with all the control we have of light these days, we should be using it in a way to change people's perception, improve their experience when they enter a new space and spend time in a new space. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into it than just the lighting, but I tend to agree with you that a well-designed environment can change people's lives. And I read a book by Sarah Williams Goldhagen. She was a design professor at Harvard. It's called Welcome to Your World. And what she talks about is our subconscious cognitive interaction with architecture. And I did not study architecture, so this was my introduction to the topic. And she helps us to understand that the way spaces are designed, both the lighting and the geometric environment and the materials used, all have a subconscious effect on our moods, thoughts, and behaviors. And it affects us in a way we don't consciously perceive. And so I started to think about retail design right off the bat, like how you walk into a fashion store and they light a specific part of the store so it draws your attention and draws you deeper into the space.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can think about a grocery store, how the candy and gum rack just happens to be positioned right next to the checkout and will often get somebody to purchase more than they were going to by the time they arrive there. And those frameworks are intentional capitalistic, ways of thinking about designing retail environments, but the same psychology applies to non-capitalistic purposes. Like, thinking about designing a space to benefit people. What if we designed the geometry and materials of a school lunchroom to encourage students of different age groups and ethnicities to sit together, those who would maybe never naturally do so? Or what if we design a hospital waiting room environment that reduces anxiety or helps people feel like more of a sense of community and support from the system and from each other? That was a long-winded answer, but I think there are many examples out there of how we can use good interior design frameworks to improve people's lives and their futures.
So in terms of the installs, and Mike kind of said the order, Windows are the best, then Skylight, then Suntunnel, whatever the order was. Is that legit? Are the Windows better than above you, Skylight?
Uh, it depends on your goals. If you're talking about lighting for circadian entrainment, lighting
Mhm.
from the vertical plane actually is superior. And the reason for that is because the light has a more direct path into your eye to come in contact with your retina and your IPRGCs, the sensors in your eyes that are affecting our circadian rhythm and our hormones. And that's why when you look at like circadian lighting calculations in a typical lighting environment, they have something called a vertical to horizontal illuminance ratio. How much of the light that is being produced from a light source on the ceiling is actually making its way into our eye on the vertical plane for the purposes of circadian entrainment. So if you're thinking about it in that way, yes, a window is superior to a skylight. If you're thinking about lighting a space and ambient lighting and just having illumination throughout the space, it could go either way. And it depends on
Right.
the orientation of the window in the building.
And
So
that's
there's
kind of what
different
I
ways to
think
think about
about
it.
is, yeah, the windowless environments that I'm in. Let's, an office building with a cube farm. There's no other way to do. You can't do windows in there because the person in the middle doesn't get any effects. So you have to go above. What are you guys seeing more? Installs in the ceiling or installs on the wall?
For LIGHTGLASS, the majority of our installs are actually transom windows. So high up on the wall, horizontal wide, like kind of narrow and wide installation of LIGHTGLASS high up on the wall. And the reason that that's so popular is because it's above eye level, you don't expect to see a view out of the window.
Mhm.
And the feeling of light coming in is satisfactory. We do a lot of skylight applications as well, but I would say the majority of our projects are on the wall in a transom window application.
Nice. And does it? Are you? I know I'm getting a little in depth here, but are you doing continuous rows? Or are you spacing them out, or both?
Both, we do a lot of continuous runs. We call them arrays, and
Hmm.
it's where you connect multiple units together to form basically any length. And we haven't found a limit to how far we could go yet, but we have some runs that are, I don't know, over 70 feet long of LIGHTGLASS made from multiple units, and can light entire large spaces.
So in terms of the actual product itself, it is Kelvin temperature changing. Is that correct? You can change the Kelvin temp.
Yeah, it's tunable white between 2200 Kelvin and 6500 Kelvin on the high end. It's also dimmable down to 0.1%. And the light engines were designed specifically to optimize for circadian entrainment at high Kelvin temperatures and to limit the amount of circadian stimulus at low Kelvin temperatures. So if you look at the spectral power distribution of LIGHTGLASS, you'll see that at 6500 Kelvin, there's high intensities of 450 to 490 nanometer light. And at low Kelvin temperatures, you have suppressed amounts of that range.
Greggy, you got to
You
ask
know
the
what question's
question.
coming up. You
You
know
got
what's
to ask
coming
the,
because
you
I
got to
ask
ask
every
the
one of them.
question. You got to ask the
So,
question.
so I want this system. Let's say, who's going to decide that? Who is the system going to simulate the sunlight for me? And are you going to tell us what that is, or do I have to choose and say I want 5K now, I want 4K at 2 o'clock, that kind of thing? How does it work?
Is
Who
it
Yeah,
decides?
so
prescriptive or preference based?
it's very preference based. We can offer
Ooh,
suggestions,
ooh.
but what we
Yeah.
designed the system to be flexible. So it has the same
Mm.
components as an LED light fixture, which means you can tie it into your building control system and do whatever you want with the color and the intensity. We also designed our own turnkey control system, which
There you go.
it's set at the factory. And if you get that, it's all pre-wired. You just
That's
deliver
what you need.
power to the
Yeah.
product, and it'll
Mhm.
start running daylight simulation where you are, knowing daylight savings and everything.
Yeah.
So we have it both ways. If you want an easy, predetermined circadian rhythm daylight simulation, we have that. If you want to treat it like a light fixture, you can do that too.
And do you publish that info, or is that public knowledge? Can you say, here's what it's going to be? I know it depends. Let's say it's Minnesota. At 9 o'clock, it's this Kelvin. At noon, it's this and this output. At 4, it's this. Do you do that?
Yeah, so we didn't publish for every single time zone. What we did is we published our standard curve,
Mhm.
both for intensity and color, for the sundial system on our spec sheet.
So,
So if you went to
so,
page 6 of our spec sheet, you'd see the curve it's going to follow.
so hang on. So I enter my latitude and longitude, basically. Is that how it works? Like latitude and
We
longitude?
will we will enter it based on the project location.
Okay. And then your product is you have a switch on it that allows, whether that's a software switch or a button on it that says just mimic the sun based on my latitude and longitude.
It's basically a schedule that it's
Okay.
keeping, and we're telling it at this time of day, this is your color and intensity. At this time, switch to
And
this one.
that's
It'll
mimicking
fade
the outdoor
between.
environment in Minnesota or Tallahassee or wherever.
Yes, and it changes based on basically your time zone. and
I've been
whether or
telling
not it's
everybody
daylight
that's
saving.
the easy way to do it. People think it's
And
harder, but that's the
and
easiest
I'm
way to
not
do
gonna.
it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do a shared screen, but it is here. I see it. See the Kelvin temp, and it goes up to 65K, 100% at about 9 a.m. Stays till about 3.
See, the
And it
reason why
starts
I like
dropping.
that, Greg, the reason why I like
Yeah.
that is because you don't. There's no obligation to prove it. Like if somebody says to you, "Yeah, we're going to do 2200 in the morning, and then it's going to go up to this," and they're going, "Why is it that one? Why is it like that?" And you're like, "You have to do research or something." If you just say to the clients, "We're going to mimic the outdoor environment of St. Paul, Minnesota, because that's where you are," you don't have to prove to them that that's the right environment. That's the environment they
Right.
live in.
Yeah.
So we're just going to match the environment you live in. Or you could, maybe you want to have extend the sunlight a little bit longer because St. Paul's pretty far north, and maybe we're going to give you an extra 2 hours over St. Paul time. But like understanding the location of where the person is at, I think is fundamental in order to specify this correctly. You know what I'm saying?
I to-
Benjamin?
yeah, I totally agree with that. And there's actually even ways to do it more organically. It just costs a lot more. You could match the sunlight hitting the exterior of the building in real time. You
Wow.
can match the color and intensity if you pair it with a sensor that's already shipping, already exists. You can do this today. You can organically match in real time what's hitting the outside of the building. And so, if you want to take it that far, that's definitely the most
That
organic
sounds like
way
magic.
of lighting a space. But
That's
it's
no,
cost
seriously.
prohibitive.
I mean, that sounds like magic. I mean, it's cost prohibitive now, but maybe it's a no-brainer. Like, who knows, right? Um, like some things are transformational, and I've been talking about this kind of technology for what, 5 years now, Greg? 6 years? How
Yeah.
long?
Yep. Yeah. 6. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of big talkers in this space, actually.
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges is that we learned this again from the same research from the Lighting Research Center is about photic history. One of the
Mm-hmm.
main criteria of circadian lighting is photic history. What have your previous light exposures been during the day?
Mm-hmm.
And it's different for each of us. And on top of that, each of us have different ages, different genders, different ethnicities and backgrounds. Hypothetically, according to the research, each of us could use a little bit different quality and amount of light based on our individual
Yeah, yeah,
characteristics and
but we're
lifestyle.
probably
Right?
98% the same. You know what I'm saying? Like we're probably 96% the same or something like that. Like you can get ridiculous with it, but you don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good in some senses, right?
Right. And our way of saying that is let's make progress instead of waiting for perfection. Let's
Mm,
let's
Mhm.
do the best we can today
sure.
and continue to improve over time, knowing what we know. And this is our attempt at it. Really, the reason we created Sundial was to make it easier to incorporate dynamic lighting, like LightGlass provides, into the built environment. We want to remove as much friction from the decision to do that as possible. And the controls were a big friction point. At first, when we released the product, it was like we're controls agnostic. Pair it with anything that works with 0 to 10, and that's great. We still have that option, but we were getting asked, how do I make it simulate daylight? The ways to do that with the existing control systems was complicated and expensive. And so we were like, let's remove this friction, make it easy. And at least people will have what feels like a window in a windowless space and have a dynamic lighting environment
Mm,
instead of a static
sure.
environment all day. And
Yeah,
those
very
are two
important.
benefits that we can provide today.
I think
How
the
do
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Greg.
Well, I'm just curious. How is this any different than a flat panel? A lot of people listening, a lot of people thinking about it is like, well, it's just a flat panel on the wall or a
Good
flat
question.
panel in the ceiling.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, I mean, one of the things that you won't see is the spectral power distribution. That's something that's inherent in the light quality that makes a big difference from just a normal 2x4 flat panels. We're optimizing the spectrum for circadian lighting. Something you do see and notice when you see the product in person is the sense of depth it gives you. In a flat panel, the light surface is the face of the product. In the light glass product, the light surface is layered with pieces of glass and it creates a sense of depth. So you have what feels like a window, and then behind it feels like there's a source of light. It is a uniform surface of light, just like a flat panel, but that sense of depth and the materials we're using make it feel like a window when it's installed, and that's not true of just any old flat.
From the pictures I've seen, it looks like a frosted window.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. Like a frosted window, or a window on a cloudy
Yeah.
day.
Like when you're in a bathroom at a spa and they have big windows and you're changing and the window's all frosted. Like that's what it
Yeah,
looks like. Yes. Um,
absolutely. And you can
yeah.
achieve that by making a custom light box, and that's what people were
Or maybe I
doing.
was in a spa that had light glass in it and I thought it was a window. Listen,
Sure, sure.
let me tell you this. The piece that that intrigues me that nobody talks about very much, and I think is maybe the most valuable part of the whole thing. And that is this idea of queuing. So, when your light tells us what to do, it tells us when to go to bed when it's absent. It tells us to wake up when it comes back again. The moon does something to us. It goes around the earth and it pulls the oceans around the earth and lets them go. And if you don't think that's affecting you, then you don't understand how the world works physically, actually. So I think there's this cueing element to lighting that it's telling us something. Um, and I think that's to me, Greg, that's what's going to add the value or the psychological piece to it. I don't know about the light actually hitting you, whether the eye or anything like that, but there's a psychological element of looking at a window or knowing where the outside is and feeling what time it is in your gut. You know what I'm saying? Or in your mind. And I think that the cueing aspect of it will be interesting to see how it plays out if that's what it is that's really helping humans feel healthier and better about themselves.
And I guess I wonder too, to pair off that is, would you do this then for people working a night shift? Would you make it seem like it's
Mm.
day,
Hmm.
from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. for them? Is that the benefit?
So yeah, the
Or is,
Lighting Research Center has published information about what's the best thing to do for night shift workers. The Lighting Research Center has several articles from Mariano Figueroa and Mark Ray, and um, it depends on the use of the space. Like a nurse might have a different recommended night shift lighting environment than a security worker or a custodial staff member, especially if they're in charge of cleaning. They need some more light. But I would refer to that for what the best thing to do is for night shift workers. I think one of the recommendations that I've seen in that research is to provide enough light at low Kelvin temperatures to see, but not to disrupt the melatonin production of those night shift workers at night.
I
For
think what I've kind of come to the conclusion with the night shift workers is that the best thing we can do is have as minimal night shift workers as possible. Like that's like night shift is because I mean, Greg, remember we're going to tell a little story. There was one time when Greg and I partied all night long until the wee hours of the morning, and we came out of
once.
once we came
just
out of
one time.
we came out of a casino in Vegas, and it was so bright outside, and like I think that I don't think there's a way to help the shift workers that much with the lighting inside. Maybe a little bit but when even when they come out of the building that they're working in and get in their car, that's all that blast of light at that point is cueing them or telling them to be in a certain physiological framework, and I think it's messing with them. And so I think the only thing we can do, Benjamin, is really try to reduce the amount of jobs that are done as shift workers.
That's I see that as a potential way to solve the problem or eliminate the problem, but I don't see how it's feasible. We'd have to stop people from getting sick in the middle of the night and stop people from cleaning buildings
Yeah,
after
but
the
we
work
don't need
hours are over.
24-hour Walmarts, bud. You know what I mean?
No, I'm on board with that. Maybe we first start with the unessential night
Hmm.
work, and then there's a lot of emergency staff who work at night that'd be harder to replace. But I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Hmm.
What application have you had the most success in, or the most installs, or whatever it is, with this product like glass?
About half of LightGlass's installs are in healthcare facilities,
Okay.
and that's our largest segment. Anything from it started out with observation units, which are short-term patient stay rooms up to like 48, 72 hours. all the way to emergency department lighting, to neonatal ICUs, to MRI suites, and even waiting rooms too. But a lot of patient space lighting with light glass, and that's the work we're most proud of by far. Those types of projects. So I'm glad it's the most of our business.
And is that the primary light source in these applications?
It in most cases it's not thought of as a primary light source. It's thought of more like bringing the benefits of a window into a space, and they
Okay.
have overhead ceiling lighting for emergencies, exams. So it's really even though when it's on, it can functionally illuminate an entire room in a very comfortable way, and you could see examples of that on the photos on our website.
Mhm.
It's usually not thought of as lighting; it's thought of as a window, and so they have lighting and light glass.
You know what's interesting
Nice.
about um, what you're saying? Like hospitals are used to paying a lot of money for light fixtures, Greg. So
Right.
you know what I mean? Like some of those the lights in a hospital, they have no problem spending $1,000 on a light fixture. You know what I mean? Like whereas the average commercial office space, they're not going to make that jump to $1,000 light fixture really quickly. Okay.
Right. Right.
But I think that I think there's two things that need to happen, Benjamin, that you're not going to like. Maybe you will like them. I don't know. Maybe you will like them. Okay. If this technology works, okay, and it delivers, because I think the queuing piece is something that hasn't really been studied enough. I think everybody's looking for biological markers, which may be secondary to the fact that your body's being cued to do something by light, and natural light's very good at that, cueing, telling us to go to bed or go home. Um, the I think that we're going to need to make this technology, if it works, as cheap as possible, so that everyone can have access to it.
Absolutely.
Because if it actually works, because there's been a lot of snake oil, okay, in the lighting industry for a long time, buddy. But if that technology works and it helps people sleep better and raises children's grades, and in school inner city schools that are don't have any windows, that you're able to immediately, like without building an entirely new building, get 75% of the effect or whatever. I think there's a moral obligation that exists if it actually works. And that's how powerful I think natural light is. Or in this case, virtual reality natural light or whatever.
Yeah, I personally feel, of course, I'm biased, but I personally feel like there's enough evidence out there of how this type of lighting can benefit people that it's worth paying the extra amount to install. And I think my belief in that, it has helped transfer over to the hospital systems that we've
Mm-hmm.
worked with and continue to work with, because I can point to articles from the NIH that show how programmed environmental illumination can do so and so, improve sleep, reduce the onset of depression, help neonatal ICU,
Mm-hmm.
premature babies heal and grow outside the womb. And so that's the research I'm sharing with these hospital facility teams and hospital designers when I'm going to show light glass and say light glass can achieve these type of lighting applications.
But I don't think
Um,
we've done the research that really matters yet. I think there's even more research that we have to do with respect to the psychological aspects of cueing, and also like that reduction in anxiety, perhaps. Like does this product actually, or not, does natural light reduce anxiety if somebody sits in front of a window? If we frost that window, does it, how much is the effect the same? And then if we replace it with some of this biophilic lighting or whatever the heck this is called, um, light glass technology, does it? How much of the percentage of the effect do we get?
mm,
And just like we know the window skylight sun tunnel situation, they all have an effect. They know that schools with sun tunnels perform better than schools with no windows, and they know that schools with skylights perform better than schools with sun tunnels. and they know that schools with windows perform better than schools with skylights and sun tunnels. So there's some sort of thing here that we have to establish. But once we establish it, we have to make it cheap. Like, do you understand what I mean? We have to make it accessible to people, if it actually works, because it's not a scam. You know what I'm saying? If it actually works, and I'm not saying it. Get a Grip on Lighting is not endorsing LIGHTGLASS lighting right now, Greg Eric. We're talking about the potential of this kind of technology, Benjamin, and how important
Absolutely.
it would be. Benjamin, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the Get a Grip on Lighting listeners before we close the show out?
Yeah, I guess two things. One on the point you just made uh, about cost, the cost of these solutions. So light glass is many times more expensive than a flat panel of the same size,
Mm-hmm.
and that's because of the materials it's made from. It
Do
has
you
all the
know how
components
do
of
you
the
know
light
how
fixture,
cheap a flat panel is in 2023, bud?
even cheaper than it was last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, like it's pretty cheap. So many
Yep.
Yeah.
times, I mean, what does one of these things sell for? Just throw a price out there, bud.
Yeah, like for example, the application we did in the children's hospital that you could see on our website, a transom window, two 1x4 units. That's about $3,200 worth of light glass, all in,
Yeah.
prefabricated with the drivers, all the material, everything. So that one hospital room, that one transom window, 1x8 feet, was around $3,200.
That's about
That's
50 times the cost of two flat panels.
Absolutely. And what the hospital
Many.
is thinking after I walk in there is this will pay for itself after 1 to 2 patients in the space.
Maybe.
And that's why they're investing in it. I mean, there's hospital systems that are doing entire construction projects just to incorporate light glass with no
Listen.
other changes.
You don't have any. You don't have any. Anybody that's skeptical about that. What we, about how quickly the payback would be if it actually worked. Like it would be incalculable. Actually, you wouldn't even be able to calculate it. The payback would be so good because, listen, natural light or windows have a massive impact on people's. Everybody knows this. From every angle you can imagine, they study this. Natural light is very good for you. And so if we can grab some of that, folks, with the LIGHTGLASS, that would be awesome. But Greg, in the meantime, you got to go down to KeystoneTech.com. That's KeystoneTech.com. Light made easy, Greg.
Yep, they're area lights with the optic swap. It's Type 3, Type 4, Type 5 distribution all built into it, so it's easily changeable. Photocell, color temp, wattage, you get it all. One fixture does it all for your area lighting.
And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, that's right, America's Association, Greg. America's Lighting Association is having America's Convention down in Dallas. That's right, we're going to check out America's team, Dallas Cowboys, and go see where they play and all that sort of stuff. So that's happening in September. You should come down because we also talk about lighting. Of course, we say thank you to Benjamin Rapkin from LIGHTGLASS Lighting. That's LIGHT Glass, GLASSLIGHTING.com. Also lightly.com. And of course, you guys out there selling light bulbs every day, you be careful now. Talk to you soon.